Okay, let's start. Number 10. Upshot Knothole Grable. In 1953, the United States military asked a question that should never have been asked. Can we fire a nuclear bomb out of a cannon? The answer was yes. At the Nevada test site, a massive artillery piece called Atomic Annie launched a nuclear shell 11 kilometers through the air. It detonated above the desert with a force of 15 kilotons, roughly the same power that destroyed Hiroshima. Fired from a cannon, thousands of soldiers were positioned nearby to watch. They were told it was safe. Many of them were not given any protection at all. They simply stood there, watched the sky turn white, and felt the shockwave hit their chests. The test proved the weapon worked. It also proved that the military was willing to put its own soldiers in the blast zone just to see what would happen. Number 9. Starfish Prime. This one did not destroy a city. It nearly destroyed something bigger. In 1962, the United States detonated a nuclear warhead high above the Pacific Ocean. Not on the ground, not in the water, in space, at an altitude of roughly 400 kilometers. The blast created an electromagnetic pulse so powerful that it knocked out streetlights, blew fuses, and disrupted telephone systems in Hawaii. Over 1,400 kilometers away, it damaged multiple satellites in orbit. It created an artificial radiation belt around the Earth that lingered for years. The test was meant to study what a nuclear explosion does in space. The answer was simple. It reaches everything. Number 8. Operation Crossroads, Baker. In 1946, less than a year after the war ended, the United States detonated a nuclear bomb underwater at Bikini Atoll. The blast sent a column of water over a mile into the sky. 2 million tons of water, sand and coral were thrown upward in a single second. A fleet of retired warships anchored around the blast zone were tossed like toys. Some sank instantly. Others were so contaminated with radiation that they could never be used again. But the real devastation was quieter. The explosion poisoned the lagoon. The water, the sand, the fish, the coral, everything became radioactive. The people of Bikini Atoll had been relocated before the test and were promised they could return. They never did. The island remains uninhabitable to this day. An entire homeland erased by a single blast. Number 7. Trinity, July 16th, 1945. The desert of New Mexico, the first nuclear explosion in the history of the world. The test was codenamed Trinity, and nobody knew for certain what would happen when they pressed the button. Some scientists quietly worried that the blast might ignite the atmosphere and end all life on Earth. They ran the calculations and decided the risk was low enough to proceed. The bomb detonated at 5:30 in the morning. The flash was visible from over 200 miles away. The sand beneath the blast was fused into glass. A mushroom cloud rose 12 kilometers into the sky. The lead scientist looked at what he had created and later recalled a line from an ancient text. "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The nuclear age had begun. Number 6. Ivy Mike. If Trinity was the beginning, Ivy Mike was the moment it got out of control. On November 1st, 1952, the United States detonated the first full-scale hydrogen bomb at Eniwetok Atoll in the Pacific. The yield was 10.4 megatons. That is roughly 700 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The blast vaporized an entire island. It did not destroy it. It vaporized it. The island of Elugelab, where the device had been placed, simply ceased to exist. In its place was a crater over a mile wide and 50 meters deep, filled with ocean water. One bomb, one island, gone. The hydrogen bomb changed everything. It proved that there was no upper limit to how powerful a weapon could be, and the world has been living with that knowledge ever since. Number 5. RDS-37. When the United States tested its hydrogen bomb, the Soviet Union watched carefully, and then it built its own. In November 1955, the Soviets detonated RDS-37 over the Semipalatinsk test site in Kazakhstan. The yield was 1.6 megatons. Not the biggest on this list, but the devastation on the ground was enormous. The shockwave travelled outward and destroyed buildings in nearby towns. Roofs collapsed, walls caved in. A young girl in a village kilometres from the test site was killed when her building fell on her. This was the test that proved the Soviets had mastered the hydrogen bomb. The arms race was no longer one-sided. From this point forward, both superpowers had the ability to erase entire cities from the map. Number 4. Fat Man. On August 9, 1945, 3 days after Hiroshima, a second bomb was dropped. This one was called Fat Man, and it fell on the city of Nagasaki. The yield was 21 kilotons, slightly more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb, but the geography of Nagasaki, surrounded by hills, contained some of the blast. It did not matter. Around 40,000 people were killed instantly. Tens of thousands more died in the weeks and months that followed from burns and radiation. Entire neighborhoods were flattened. Fires burned through the wreckage for days. Nagasaki was not even the original target. Cloud cover over the primary city forced the pilots to divert. A city of 250,000 people was destroyed because of the weather. Number 3. Little Boy. August 6, 1945. Hiroshima. A single bomb, 13 kilotons, dropped from a plane called the Enola Gay at 8:15 in the morning. The city was going about its day, people were walking to work, children were in school, streetcars were running, and then, in a fraction of a second, the centre of the city ceased to exist. Around 80,000 people were killed instantly. The blast wave flattened nearly every building within a mile of ground zero. Fires erupted everywhere. A mushroom cloud rose over the city. But the dying did not stop on that day. Radiation sickness followed. Burns that would not heal. Hair falling out in clumps. Children who survived the blast dying weeks later from invisible poison. The final death toll is estimated at over 140,000 people. Little Boy was the first nuclear weapon ever used in war, and 60 seconds was all it took to change the meaning of the word weapon forever. Number 2. Castle Bravo. This is the one that went wrong. On March 1st, 1954, the United States detonated a hydrogen bomb at Bikini Atoll. The expected yield was around 6 megatons. The actual yield was 15 megatons, 2.5 times more powerful than anyone predicted. The scientists had made a critical miscalculation. The bomb was far more powerful than designed. The blast carved a crater over 2 kilometers wide into the reef. The mushroom cloud rose over 40 kilometers into the sky and spread outward for over 100 kilometers. And then came the fallout. Radioactive ash rained down on nearby islands that had not been fully evacuated. The people of Rongelap Atoll, over 100 miles away, watched white powder fall from the sky like snow. Children played in it. They did not know what it was. Within hours, they were sick. Within days, they were covered in burns. Many would develop cancers and other illnesses that followed them for the rest of their lives. A Japanese fishing boat called the Lucky Dragon 5 was also caught in the fallout. The crew had no warning. They returned to Japan sick. One of them later died. Castle Bravo was supposed to be a controlled test. Instead, it became the worst nuclear accident in American history. Number 1. Tsarbomba, October 30th, 1961. The Soviet Union detonated the most powerful weapon ever created by human hands. Tsarbomba, the king of bombs, the yield was 50 megatons. That is more than 3,000 times the power of the Hiroshima bomb. More powerful than all the explosives used by every side in the entirety of World War II combined. The bomb was dropped from a plane over Novaya Zemlya, a remote island in the Arctic Ocean. The plane had to be specially modified. The crew was given only a 50% chance of surviving the mission. The blast wave circled the Earth 3 times. The mushroom cloud rose 64 kilometers into the sky, higher than any cloud ever recorded. The flash was visible from over 1,000 kilometers away. Windows were shattered in buildings hundreds of kilometers from the blast site. At ground zero, everything within a radius of 35 kilometers was completely destroyed. The ground was scraped clean, nothing remained. And here is the most unsettling part. Tsarbomba was originally designed to yield 100 megatons. The Soviets deliberately reduced the power by half because they were afraid even they could not control what it would do. 50 megatons. Half power, and it was still the most destructive single event in human history. So, there they are, 10 of the most devastating nuclear detonations ever recorded. From a cannon-fired shell in the Nevada desert to the largest explosion ever created by humankind in the Arctic. Each one of these tests pushed the boundary of what was possible, and each one proved the same uncomfortable truth. The power to destroy everything is not a secret anymore. It is sitting in silos, on submarines, and in the hands of a small number of people around the world. And the only thing standing between that power and everything you know is the decision not to use it. That is the real devastation of the nuclear age. Not what the bombs did, but what they proved we are capable of.